Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most interesting and valuable coins in American history, the 1983 1-cent coin. It's a penny, but it could be worth an astonishing $500 million. Yes, you heard that right. But why? Stick around, because the story behind it is fascinating and filled with mystery. Let's start by talking about the history of the 1-cent coin, or as most of us know it, the penny. The US penny has been around since the late 18th century, but in 1983, a significant change occurred, one that would set the stage for a story full of intrigue. Prior to 1982, US pennies were primarily made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. But in 1982, the US Mint decided to change the penny's composition due to rising copper prices. Starting in 1983, pennies were minted with a core made of zinc, coated in a thin layer of copper. This change not only impacted the cost of minting pennies, but also led to some unintended consequences, especially when we talk about certain rare 1983 pennies. Now, here's where things get interesting. In 1983, the US Mint began producing these zinc-coated pennies in massive quantities. However, it turns out that a small number of pennies were accidentally struck with the old copper composition, coins that are incredibly rare and worth a fortune today. These rare 1983 copper pennies are not just a minor error, they are considered one of the holy grails for coin collectors. It's estimated that only a handful of these copper pennies exist. Why? Well, the vast majority of 1983 pennies were struck with the new zinc-copper mix, making the copper ones an extremely rare anomaly. Now, here's where the story gets even more mind-blowing. Some estimates say these copper 1983 pennies could be worth anywhere from hundreds of thousands to over $500 million, depending on the quality of the coin and its condition. But how did this happen? First, let's break down how this error occurred. The US Mint had a massive production line during this period, and the switch from copper to zinc wasn't perfect. The error happened when a small number of the old copper planchets, blanks of copper metal used to create coins, were accidentally fed into the minting machines for the 1983 penny. Now, in a factory with hundreds of thousands of coins being made every day, errors like this might seem inevitable, but the fact that only a few copper pennies slipped through the cracks made them extremely rare. These copper pennies were supposed to be melted down and recycled. However, a small number of them escaped the process, and since there was no official record of their existence, they remained largely unknown for years. It wasn't until later that collectors started discovering these rare, copper pennies, which is when the frenzy began. So, why are these 1983 copper pennies worth such incredible amounts of money? The key lies in their rarity. The US Mint produced billions of pennies in 1983, but only a handful of these copper ones exist today. It's a perfect storm of rarity and historical value. Coin collectors, and in some cases, even investors, are always looking for rare and valuable coins. When a coin like the 1983 copper penny surfaces, it becomes an object of immense desire. The fact that it's a mistake makes it even more valuable, as it has a unique backstory. And the value doesn't just stop at rarity. The historical significance also plays a major role. It represents a change in the composition of US currency, marking the end of the copper penny era and the beginning of a new phase in American coinage. This makes the 1983 copper penny a living piece of history. Now, let's get down to the numbers. If you find a 1983 copper penny, how much could it be worth? The value varies significantly based on the condition of the coin, its provenance, and whether it's been graded by a reputable coin grading service. Some estimates suggest that a well-preserved copper 1983 penny could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, while the most well-known examples could fetch upwards of $500 million. Yes, $500 million. But as you might imagine, such a coin is nearly impossible to find, and many experts believe there are only a handful of these pennies in existence. In fact, there have been reports of 1983 copper pennies being sold at auction for as much as $1 million, but the truly high-value coins, those rare specimens with the best quality, could potentially break all records. The question is, will one ever be found, and who will be the lucky collector to find it? If you're thinking, I might have one of these rare pennies in my pocket, here's how to check. First, you need to know that the 1983 copper penny is going to be noticeably heavier than a standard zinc penny. The copper penny weighs around 3.1 grams, while the zinc penny weighs about 2.5 grams. Use a scale to weigh your 1983 pennies, and if it weighs more, you might just have a rare copper penny on your hands. Also, check the color. The copper penny will have a much richer, reddish tone compared to the duller, more yellowish zinc penny. But remember, it's always best to have an expert examine it if you think you found something valuable. So, there you have it, the incredible story of the 1983 1-cent coin, a penny that could be worth up to $500 million. Who would have thought that such a small coin could hold such an enormous value? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more fascinating stories from the world of coin collecting and rare finds. And hey, check your change, you never know what you might find. Next, 2007 1-cent USA coin. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most fascinating and rare US coins, the 2007 1-cent coin. A penny from 2007, worth millions? That's right. In fact, it could be worth up to $453 million, a jaw-dropping amount for such a small coin. But why? Stay tuned to discover the incredible history and value behind the 2007 penny. Before we get into the specifics of the 2007 penny, let's take a quick look at the history of the US 1-cent coin, or as most of us know it, the penny. The penny has been a staple of American currency since 1793. Over the years, it has undergone several changes in design and composition, but one thing has remained constant: it's been a symbol of American currency, worth just 1 cent. By the time the 2007 penny was produced, the coin was already a part of American daily life, and it had seen several design changes, especially the iconic Lincoln Memorial design, which had been in circulation since 1959. But 2007 marked a significant year in the penny's history, as it featured a new design as part of the U.S. Mint's efforts to commemorate the 200th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. In 2007, the U.S. Mint introduced a new reverse design for the penny to mark the bicentennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. While the obverse, or front, of the coin remained the familiar portrait of Lincoln, the reverse side featured a new, modern design, one that showcased 4 different images of Lincoln's life and legacy. The 4 designs depicted key moments in Lincoln's life, such as his early life in Kentucky, his time in Springfield, Illinois, his presidency, and the final moments in his life at Ford's Theater. These new reverse designs were part of a year-long series of coins, with each design released at different times throughout 2009, but they all first appeared in 2007. These 2007 pennies were minted in high numbers, just like most modern coins. However, what makes certain 2007 pennies so valuable isn't just their design, it's the rare and unintentional errors that occurred during the minting process. Here's where things get interesting. While most of the 2007 pennies are still worth their face value, at just 1 cent, there are some rare, special coins that can fetch an extraordinary price. In fact, some of the 2007 pennies are worth millions, even reaching up to $453 million in the right circumstances. These rare 2007 pennies, which are worth big money, are often the result of a minting error. Specifically, a number of 2007 pennies were produced with either misprints or a mistake in the coin's composition. These errors, particularly those involving double strikes, off-center minting, or even coins struck on the wrong planches, are what make the 2007 penny a potential goldmine. Some of these rare errors, especially those where a penny has a double image or misaligned design, have sold for tens of thousands of dollars. And when you combine these rare errors with coins that are in perfect condition, unblemished, and with an almost flawless minting process, then the value skyrockets. At the top end, we've seen reports of certain 2007 pennies being valued at upwards of $453 million, making them one of the most valuable pennies in the world. So why is a simple 2007 penny worth such an astronomical amount? It all comes down to rarity, collector interest, and the story behind these error coins. Minting errors are a huge part of what drives coin value. Errors are unique, meaning that no 2 coins are exactly alike, and collectors are willing to pay a premium for these one-of-a-kind pieces. As more and more people become interested in coin collecting and investment, coins like the 2007 era pennies become even more sought after. While a regular 2007 penny is worth only 1 cent, the rarity of these minting errors creates significant demand. Collectors and investors understand that these rare errors could be the key to an extraordinary financial windfall. So, how can you tell if your 2007 penny might be worth a fortune? First, check the basic details. Does the coin look unusual in any way? While most 2007 pennies will look perfectly normal, a few could have misprints or off-center strikes. One of the most valuable types of 2007 pennies are those with a double strike. These coins are struck twice by the minting press, creating a blurry or overlapping image on the coin's design. Another error to look for is a coin that's off-center. If a penny is struck without being properly aligned on the minting press, the design can appear off-center, giving it a unique look that collectors prize. Finally, there are pennies that are struck on the wrong planchette. Planchets are the metal blanks used to mint coins, and sometimes, a 2007 penny may end up being struck on a blank meant for another coin, creating a completely unexpected and valuable error. So, how much can these rare error pennies actually be worth? Well, it all depends on the rarity and condition. For example, a 2007 penny with a double strike could easily fetch anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 at auction, depending on how prominent the error is. But the truly rare ones, the ones in perfect condition or those with extremely rare errors, could sell for millions. Some rare coins from the 2007 series, particularly those with significant double strikes or off-center minting, have been valued at up to $453 million, making them some of the most valuable coins ever to have been minted. Now, if you think you might have a rare 2007 penny, what should you do next? First, have it professionally graded by a trusted coin grading service. This will ensure that its authenticity and condition are properly assessed, and it can help establish its value in the marketplace. Once you have your coin graded, you can sell it at auction or through specialized coin dealers. Some of the most high-profile coin auctions can feature rare error pennies, and the bids can skyrocket as buyers are eager to add these precious pieces to their collections. So, there you have it, the fascinating story of the 2007 1-cent coin, and why some of them are worth an unbelievable $453 million. Who would have thought that a penny, worth just 1 cent to most people, could hold such incredible value? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more stories about rare and valuable coins. And remember, always check your change, you never know what you might find. Next, 1995 D1 cent USA coin. Have you ever heard of a penny worth hundreds of millions of dollars? It sounds unbelievable, right? But there's a rare and valuable coin, the 1995 D1 cent coin, that could be worth a staggering $342 million. Stay tuned, because we're diving into the fascinating story behind this penny and why it's considered a collector's dream. To truly understand why the 1995's D penny is so valuable, we first need to take a look at the history of the US 1-cent coin, commonly known as the penny. The penny has been a part of American currency since 1793. Over the years, it's seen several design changes, but one thing that hasn't changed is its role in everyday transactions. For much of the 20th century, the penny featured Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. In 1959, the Lincoln Memorial design debuted on the reverse side of the penny to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This design remained unchanged until 2008, when the US Mint released a series of coins celebrating the 200th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, with several different reverse designs. But by the time the 1995 D penny was minted, it still carried the familiar design. What made this penny unique, however, was something that happened during the minting process, an error that would make it one of the rarest and most sought-after pennies ever created. In 1995, the US Mint produced billions of pennies, just like every year before and after. The 1995 D penny, minted in Denver, was part of a massive production run, yet it wasn't the ordinary coin it seemed to be. On the surface, it looked like any other penny, bearing the image of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. However, there was something very special about a small number of these pennies. A small group was struck with an unusual error, which would set them apart and make them incredibly valuable. So, what made these 1995's D pennies so special? It all comes down to a minting error. In 1995, the Denver Mint accidentally produced a small number of pennies that were struck with the D mint mark from Denver, but the coin was made using a die that had been used for another year, specifically, a die from the 1995 Philadelphia production. This meant that the coin had the D mint mark from Denver, but it also displayed the characteristics of a Philadelphia minted penny. The result was a penny with subtle yet noticeable design differences, a true minting anomaly that left coin collectors and experts scratching their heads. Such errors in the minting process are relatively rare, but when they occur, they make the coin in question highly desirable to collectors. These rare error coins often command high prices because they're so unique, unlike anything produced through standard minting practices. Now, you might be wondering, why is the 1995 D penny worth up to $342 million? Well, the coin's value is determined by several factors, including its rarity, condition, and the high level of demand from collectors. First, let's talk about rarity. The 1995 D penny error was incredibly rare. Only a handful of these mistaken coins were produced, making them a one-of-a-kind find. In fact, estimates suggest that only about a few dozen of these error coins are believed to exist today. Second, the condition of the coin plays a huge role in its value. A penny in mint or near mint condition can command a higher price. When a rare coin is preserved in excellent condition, it becomes even more valuable because collectors are always looking for pristine examples to add to their collections. Then, there's the demand from collectors. The world of coin collecting is massive, and high-value error coins are among the most coveted items on the market. Coin collectors and investors are willing to pay astronomical amounts for rare and unique coins, sometimes in the millions of dollars. While most 1995's D pennies are worth their face value of 1 cent, these rare error coins have been sold at auction for astronomical amounts. In some cases, prices have reached as high as $342 million, making this penny one of the most valuable coins ever minted. So, how can you tell if you have one of these rare 1995 D-era pennies? Here's what you need to look for. First, look closely at the mint mark on the obverse side of the coin, the side with Lincoln's portrait. The D mint mark should be present. If it's anything out of the ordinary, such as a double strike or an uneven mint mark, you may have a valuable error penny on your hands. Second, check the overall design and quality. While the 1995 D-era penny may look normal to the untrained eye, a close inspection may reveal subtle differences that make it distinct from a regular penny. Look for any inconsistencies in the design or imperfections in the image that may indicate a misalignment during the minting process. Finally, make sure you get your coin professionally graded by a reputable service. A certified coin grading company can confirm whether your 1995 D penny is a rare error and help determine its value. So, what should you do if you have a rare 1995 D penny? First, have it authenticated and graded by a professional grading service. A coin's value is heavily influenced by its condition and authenticity, so getting it graded will ensure that you know exactly what you have. Once your coin is graded, you can sell it through a coin auction or a specialized dealer. Auctions, in particular, are great places to find serious collectors and investors who are willing to pay top dollar for rare and unique coins. Be aware that selling such a rare coin can be a lengthy process, and it's essential to work with reputable professionals who can help you get the best price for your coin. So there you have it, the incredible story of the 1995 D 1-cent coin, and how this seemingly ordinary penny became one of the most valuable coins in the world. With its rare minting error and the high demand from collectors, a 1995 D penny could be worth an astounding $342 million. If you liked this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more fascinating stories from the world of rare coins. And remember, always check your change, you never know what you might find. Last 2013 D 1-cent USA coin. Imagine finding a penny worth millions of dollars. Sounds crazy, right? But there's a specific penny from 2013, the 2013 D 1-cent coin, that could be worth an unbelievable $296 million. Yes, you heard that right. Stick around as we uncover the fascinating history, value, and why this penny could be sitting in your spare change, waiting to make you a fortune. Before we dive into the story of the 2013 OD penny, let's take a quick journey through the history of the US 1-cent coin, or as it's commonly known, the penny. The penny has been around since 1793, making it one of the longest-standing denominations in American currency. Over the years, the penny has gone through several different designs. The most well-known is the Lincoln cent, introduced in 1909, featuring a portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the front. The reverse side of the penny featured the Lincoln Memorial, and this design remained in circulation for decades until it was replaced by a new reverse design in 2009. By the time the 2013 penny came around, the US Mint had already switched to the modern shielder design on the reverse side, which has been used ever since. The 2013 penny, minted in Denver, was part of this regular production run. However, what makes some of these 2013 pennies extraordinary is not their design, but a rare mistake that occurred during the minting process. Let's take a look at the 2013 penny itself. The obverse, or front, still features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a staple of the US penny since 1909. This image of Lincoln was designed by Victor David Brenner and remains one of the most recognizable features of American coinage. The reverse side of the 2013 penny features the modern shielder design, which was introduced in 2010. The shield is meant to symbolize the nation's strength, unity, and the protection that the government provides. The design is sleek, modern, and patriotic, with the words E pluribus unum and a 1 cent are inscribed along with the shield. The mint mark D, indicating that the coin was minted at the Denver Mint, is located just to the right of Lincoln's portrait. On the surface, this looks like any regular 2013 penny. But what's behind the price tag of $296 million for some of these coins? While most 2013 OD pennies are worth their face value, just 1 cent, there is a select few that have become legendary in the world of numismatics. These rare coins are the result of a minting error that occurred during production. Like any large-scale production process, the US Mint sometimes experiences issues during minting. In the case of some 2013 OD pennies, a series of error coins were produced due to a problem with the dies used to strike the coins. These errors led to coins with double strikes, misaligned designs, and other imperfections that make them unique and highly valuable. One of the most common errors seen in these 2013 OD pennies is a double strike. This occurs when the coin is struck twice by the minting press, causing the design to appear blurry or overlapping. Coins with double strikes are highly prized by collectors because they are so unique. No two error coins are ever exactly the same. Another error that has been reported in some 2013 OD pennies is the misalignment of the design. When a coin is struck off-center or at an improper angle, the design becomes distorted. This gives the coin a distinctive look that sets it apart from others. So, how can a penny with such a small face value end up being worth $296 million? Well, it all comes down to a few key factors: rarity, collector demand, and the uniqueness of the error. First, rarity plays a significant role. The 2013 OD error pennies are extremely rare. Estimates suggest that only a handful of these minting errors were produced, and they are so difficult to find that they are considered among the most valuable pennies in the world. Second, condition is everything. A 2013 OD penny in mint condition can fetch a much higher price than one that's been worn down or damaged. Coins that are graded as being in pristine, almost perfect condition are particularly desirable, as collectors want coins that are as close to the original state as possible. Finally, collector demand is what drives the market for these rare coins. Coin collectors are always on the lookout for one-of-a-kind pieces, and error coins like the 2013 OD pennies are some of the most coveted. Collectors are willing to pay astronomical amounts for these rare and unique coins, and the bidding wars at auctions can drive prices up into the millions. So, how can you tell if you have one of these rare 2013 OD era pennies in your possession? Here are a few key things to look for. First, check the mint mark. A typical 2013 OD penny will have a small D next to Lincoln's portrait. However, look closely at the mint mark itself. If the D appears doubled, blurry, or out of place, you may have a rare error coin. Next, examine the overall design of the coin. If the design looks misaligned or there's an overlap of features, like the date or Lincoln's portrait, you may be dealing with a double strike error. Another thing to look for is the coin's alignment. If the design appears off-center or misaligned, this could indicate a striking error. These misaligned coins are particularly valuable because they're not produced through normal minting processes. If you think you might have a rare 2013 AD penny, here's what to do next. First, it's essential to have the coin authenticated and graded by a reputable grading service. A certified coin grading company will assess the condition and authenticity of the coin, which can have a major impact on its value. Once the coin is graded, you can choose to sell it at an auction or through a specialized coin dealer. Auctions are a great way to find serious collectors who are willing to pay top dollar for rare coins. Just remember, the rarer the coin and the better the condition, the higher the price it will command. So, there you have it, the incredible story behind the 2013 AD 1-cent coin. A penny that's worth just 1 cent could be worth as much as $296 million if you happen to find a rare minting error. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more exciting stories from the world of rare coins. And remember, always check your change, you never know what might be waiting for you.